Hi, I'm James from Risk Assessor, and today we're going to show you how to complete a risk assessment on the desktop app. So let's get started. Once you've logged into the account, you'll see your dashboard here. We're going to come over to the navigation panel on the left hand side. If that's closed, you can open it by clicking the three lines. And then you're going to click on risk assessment. Once you've clicked on risk assessment, we want to click here on my folders. Now we can see if it's your first time, you'll have my first folder, or if you've started to create folders for your departments or customers or regions, you'll see them here as they're listed down the center of the screen. So I'm going to go and create one in Smith's Construction today. So if I hover over that folder, I can see a plus icon, and I'm going to click that plus icon. That now opens up the beginnings of a risk assessment. We can see over here on the right hand side our progress panel. So this will show us as we progress through the document how much we've done, and it will also enable us to jump back and forth throughout the document without having to press the back button over and over again. So I'm going to go ahead and start our risk assessment. So I'm first going to put in a name. So let's call it Smith Lane House Extension. And I'll put a description, extension to the Smith household, for example. Key staff, I'm going to put that we've got a contractor and a project manager. If you want to add some, you can. If they're not showing there and you want to add a new one, you can either add them before you do the assessment or add them whilst you're doing it. So if I put the name in here, and let's put James Smith. Let's say James Smith is a contractor for Smith groundwork, for example. You can put that there and click submit. Now we'll see that James Smith from Smith Groundwork has been added to the list as well. We click save, and that's your key staff there. Assessment date is today's date preset, but you can change it if you want to. We've got start date and end date for the project. So let's say we're going to start next week, and then we're going to be on that job for just 1 week. Now we've done that first page, we can press the next button. You'll see that's highlighted green over on the right hand side. Now it's going to ask us to identify risk using a photo. You can skip this if you'd like to. If you do skip it, you'll just see a list of hazards that you can then select that apply to your job. Or one of our unique features is using the photo, particularly if you're on site with your phone or your tablet. But if you are on a desktop, you can also browse your existing photos on your computer. So let's use this generic construction site image that I have ready to go. Once we've done that, you can see that loaded, and we can click continue with image. Because we're proceeding with an image, we can see that the system has put a grid over the image for us. And over here on the right hand side is our hazard library. You can build your own hazard libraries. You can build as many as you would like. And if you have built multiple, they'll show here. This standard library is just an example demo library that everyone gets. If you select the star on any of the hazards, they'll show as your favorites, and you can click on favorites and it will just show you the starred hazards. So if we select the hazards that apply, and we are using the image feature, we can drag the hazard over onto the image as to where they apply. Now, you might be thinking now, well, if I put loads of hazards on here, I'm not going to be able to see the image. And that's a really good point. And that's why we have this opacity feature where you can actually make the image quite transparent. You go all the way down to where you can't see the icon, or you go in the middle, which is what we would advise it to be. Once you've done that, you'll now see that you can still see the icon, but it's semi-translucent. So we can see through it, and we can see the image that we've uploaded. So we've selected the hazards that we want for the job. We drag them over, like I say. We drop them on the grid where it applies to the photo. Once we're happy with that, we click continue. Now the system will take us through all of each of the hazards where we can edit them and make them really site specific if we want to. So we can edit any of these things that we've pre-entered in. So for example, I'm going to put here that we're not using cleaning chemicals. We'll put maybe cement, for example. These are preset, worst case and likelihood. You would have preset them in the building of your hazard libraries, but you can change them when you like when you get to site. So maybe we go, actually, this is going to be a lot higher than minor. We're going to leave it at likely. We've not pre-selected any persons who's at risk, so we're going to select them now. And we're going to say it's just a contractor and an employee. You can add more to this list in your hazard library, and you can preset them as well. So click save, and that's that there. If we want to add a control that's not been already built into our hazard library, we can by pressing add control, and it gives us an empty box at the bottom. So now I go through all of these pre-entered control measures. I can remove and change bits if I want to make them really site specific to reduce likelihood of rejection of the RAMs. Once we're happy with the control measure, we select whichever one's applied. If you don't select one, it won't show. So the point is to build as many that is possible into your hazard library so that it's there if you need it, but if you don't need it, it just won't show. When you've selected one of them, you'll see you get two options, already in place and additional. So if you've got this control measure already in place, and that's fine, or maybe it's something that you put in additional for this job. So we'll change that over to additional. When we see that, when we've done additional, we'll see that we've got an additional likelihood option show here. So now what we can do is hopefully reduce that likelihood even more because we've added additional control measures. So we've added all our control measures and we're happy with that. We can move on to our next hazard. Again, we can bespoke any of these descriptions and make them really site specific. We can change our worst case scenario, our likelihood, and we can add who's at harm as well. So maybe you want to say a visitor is applicable for this hazard. We can again add a control if we'd like to, and we're going to select our control measures. If we select one as additional and we forget to go to the top and change that, when we click next, the system will prompt us to do it, and we go, yeah, that's fine. So we'll change that there. Now, once we've reached the end of all of our hazards that we've selected, it'll ask us if we want to select a time to follow up. We can skip the follow up if we want to, but if you are on a project for a long time, or you're having risk assessments for fixed equipment, you might want to review that once a year. That's what the follow up is. So we might say, actually, yeah, I want to come and review this risk assessment halfway through the project, and I do want the system to remind me the day before. That would be perfect. I'll set the reminder, and then we're done. The system now collates all the information that you've told it, and it puts it into a risk assessment template. This is your finished risk assessment document. If you've uploaded an icon for your account, it will show here up on the top. It will give your details, your business details, and your user details, the project name, description of work, the risk matrix, the key people, assessment date, start date, end date, further assessment date, hazard identified and who is at risk, the grid reference for your image down the bottom, your hazard with the who is at risk in brackets afterwards, the control measures, your risk matrix, your additional control measures, and your residual risk matrix. You've input your signature, you'll see a signature here. If you've input your position, it will show that there as well. And that's it, you've done your risk assessment. So you can now click finish, and that risk assessment will sit in your folder, and you'll see the follow-up date there as well. And that's it, you've done your risk assessment. There are lots of other features and we'll show them in other videos, but hopefully you can crack on and do more risk assessments now. I'll see you in the next video.